Welcome to Escaping Purgatory, a podcast where we rewatch Supernatural, then talk it through in the hopes that we can finally escape this show.
Join us each week and leave comments on upcoming episodes, and together we can escape supernatural purgatory. Hello.
Nee, hello. I was going to start singing. Nee,
Oh.
far. Wherever
Where
you are.
Oh, we do not do Celine Dion justice, but there you go.
I quite like that song.
This episode didn't do her justice either. They were just too mean. Too mean.
You're too mean. Too mean about it. But it was all a ruse, really. Like, that's the thing. It's all a ruse. It's all a ruse. No one can really hate Celine Dion. So, you know.
That's true. That's very true.
Oh, yeah.
And much like no one can hate her, everyone can hate this episode.
Yeah, like you were saying, you did not enjoy this.
No, I think it's how pointless the whole thing is, because nothing changes, nothing's added. The whole point of this episode was for like one line and then another line said 3 times by 3 different characters, and we were talking a little bit beforehand. We can't figure out why that's so important, and like it has to mean something, and if it doesn't, which this is Supernatural, so there's a high probability that it doesn't, I'm gonna be so mad. I'm gonna be so mad.
So the line is like, it's better to have not been born than to die, right? Or whatever.
Essentially, yeah.
Basically. And like Bobby says it, Ellen says it, Cass says it.
Yep.
But you're right. And they all say it in like the same way. It's real weird.
Is exact, like, if anything, this feels like Chuck wrote this.
Right. It feels like
right. It's so bad. It's so bad. And like, oh, I don't know. It was they didn't do anything with fate. They not really. Obviously they cheaped out because they couldn't get 3 women, so they just had one of the fates instead of all 3.
I don't think we ever see the other 2 fates either. We definitely see Atropos again, I'm pretty sure. I don't know if we ever see the other 2.
Yeah, I wouldn't know, I will say that.
I think we do see Atropos again. I feel like we do. I'm not sure. But yeah, I don't mind this episode. I wasn't mad about it. Like, it's fine. I don't know why I wanted them to actually go back in time to the Titanic. But I wanted that to happen. I wanted to just see, I don't know, like, it was almost like I wanted to see Balthazar like on the bridge of the Titanic just saying, look over there, and like
yeah,
like don't crash into the iceberg or something. I don't know, just something dumb. And like it could have been on like a real crappy green screen with like some fake rain on like a real dark boat set. I don't know. It would have been funny.
Yeah, I mean, anything would have been better than some of the stuff that was in this episode, to be honest.
It was fun. Look, I enjoy an alternate reality episode, which why I'm still bummed about the fact that we didn't get like the universe hopping episode in season 15 that they like had teased that they had written, because that is so up my street. You don't can't believe it. I would have watched that episode 1 million times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been on parallel with the French Mistake.
Right. Why did they not? Come on, cut something else.
Yeah.
Make the cool episode.
Yeah. Or like, you had time. You could have done 21 episodes. Come on.
Yeah, you could have done it.
We all know it.
Yeah.
We all know that.
Oh, yeah, so, yeah, I like this episode. I actually enjoyed it. It's got everybody in it, you know? Everyone's here. The gang, they are about.
Yeah. You can like it. I
will not. Wow!
I will allow you to have your opinion. I'm just kidding.
Fine, yeah. No.
So we're talking about season 6, episode 17, My Heart Will Go On.
Yes.
And it's written by Eric Camelo and Nicole Snyder and directed by Phil Segrisha, which I was surprised at. He's been doing some experimental work this season. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Because there were some zooms in this that I was just like, is this Bobby Singer? Like Robert Singer? Like what's going on? And like there was a conversation between Ellen and Bobby that I was just like, why are we so close?
I can see up their nose. Like, why are we so close?
Yeah, it was wild. I will say this as well. Like, as much as it's kind of sweet between Ellen and Bobby, I don't think their like on-screen chemistry is all there.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's not enough backstory though, is there? Like, I think there could have been some lines of like, oh, it was sure, we sure grew closer after the apocalypse or something like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just something to say like what drew them together, because they seem to kind of tolerate each other last time we saw them on screen together. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's probably what it is that like the last time we did see them on screen, it wasn't anything like this. So it's just like, when did this romantic spark happen?
Unless I guess the implication is that they've like nearly always been together. So like after Ellen's husband died, maybe she like went to Bobby, and that's
maybe, yeah.
I actually think maybe that is the case, because I feel like the time between the apocalypse and now is not long enough to like establish your business together.
Yeah, and also she says a line to him like, "You smell like a bar." Like it's, I don't know, something about the way she said it. I was like, oh, so she never ran the bar.
Yeah, like the Roadhouse never existed. They are the network. Yeah, I think I like that a bit better actually. Which I guess kind of explains some of their chemistry, that their relationship is like it's a long-term relationship. They're comfortable with each other. That kind of stuff. And you don't need that constant like, yeah. You can just be chill with each other at that point.
That's very true. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I guess we can get into it.
Yeah.
And I'll try and be good. I'll try and be nice about it.
I'll try and change your mind, because it's not that bad. It's all right. For a supernatural episode about time travel and alternate realities that is bound to always be slightly disappointing, it's quite good.
I guess also, like, the tone of this episode is also all over the place.
Really?
Like, it starts off with this Final Destination-esque scene.
Yeah.
And it's quite, it's quite bad, really. And then, like, it tries to be funny.
Yeah.
But then it also tries to be somewhat serious. And I'm just like, what is going on? And then this whole, like, scene at the end with Cass, I was just like, what?
You are right about that. There's a lot of like emotional whiplash in this episode. Like, yeah, there's that whole segment in the middle that's supposed to be funny, and you're like, okay, but they just found out that like their mother figure and like little sister is gonna die if they're basically like succeed in this. So like, why are they so casual about it? I don't know.
Yeah, and like, I don't know, the way that they tempt fate is just
It's so dumb.
It was really, anyway, okay, we'll get there.
Let's do it. Let's get into it. Yes.
Let's do it. We'll get there. So we start with a recap, which is actually fairly long. I was surprised, but they were trying to fit in a lot so that you remembered who everybody was, I suppose, and what the situation is going on right now. It starts with like the Impala swerving in, just in case you forget, like, this is the car they drive. Oh.
I didn't realize that's why they did that.
It's got Ellen and Joe's introduction and also their deaths from Abandon All Hope. It's also got Cass and Balthazar like talking, and as Balthazar is saying, you more than rebelled, you tore up the script and burned the pages for all of us. you see like Raphael's original vessel. You see a whole bunch of angels being killed off by Cass and others. Well, actually, mainly Cass. There's a mention about the souls.
Yeah.
And then it's also got like the whole bit with Rufus and Bobby and like just rubbing it in that he was killed in the last episode and there was a monster that was created by Eve, which none like what was a tie-in? Like, of course Bobby was going to be sad in this next episode.
It's just reminding you that Rufus died. If you want to feel better, you should go watch X-Files, because for some reason I'm doing kind of X-Files rewatch alongside. I restarted my X-Files rewatch because it's been a few years. And like Mr. X is played by the same actor who plays Rufus. And there's obviously Skinner, who is, I can't remember any of their names, it's really bad. The same actor who plays Samuel Winchester. So I watched an episode literally last night and I was like, wait, because they were both in that episode. I was like,
I just saw this.
They look so much younger, but like, they're still like, yeah, they're just still them. It was really weird. I don't know, but yeah, go watch X-Files. Cool. Lots of crossovers.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Shepherd's in it too, and he's like a teenager. I mean, he's not really a teenager.
Baby.
He's just a baby.
He's a baby.
So we cut then to a garage, and a guy opens the garage door, and he like props it up because it keeps falling down. He then is like goes about his business, and he's like, I don't know, trying to fix something, and he goes to reach for his beer, but it's not where he thought it was, and he reaches over and things start to like move around him, and it's all going to be like, oh no, what's he going to do? And then he almost like stabs himself with his own shears.
Yeah.
If you get that reference, good for you. He then trips over some golf balls, which has just fallen, and in the process, one of them like bounces away, hits a mousetrap, and then this horrible CGI golf ball like flies through the air and like taps this piece of wood, and he's fallen down, like half his head is like out, and he can't get up for whatever reason. And then the garage door just comes down and decapitates him.
It's like
title card.
Yeah, it's extremely Final Destination.
Yeah,
like extremely.
And like, maybe it's an old door, but I feel like garage doors are not that heavy. Like it would definitely kill you, right, if it fell onto your neck in that way. But I don't think it would decapitate you.
I don't know. I think it might.
Yeah.
Yeah. Neck's not that strong. I think it might.
No.
Yeah, or at least like mostly.
All right, that's what I want to think about that.
Yeah. I quite enjoy a Final Destination film, but you can only ever watch them once, which makes it sad to me. Yeah. Because like the whole time you're like, oh, and then like it finally happens, you're like, okay, now I cannot watch this again. But I've watched all of them, I think. It's kind of, it's like 5? Is there 5?
I think there's 6. Because they did like the Final Destination or something like that. Because I know it went up to 5, and then they did like that one that sort of tied into the very first one.
Oh, I don't know if I watched that one. Maybe I didn't watch that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they're interesting films.
I think what I was kind of disappointed about with this episode in comparison, like comparing it to Final Destination, is that like fate or whatever it is that's going after all these people doesn't have it's not personified, and therefore it's like scarier to me. Whereas I mean, obviously Supernatural is never going to do this. They had to like have someone there, but like I don't know that. I kind of wish the actress was more menacing rather than like, you made me lose my job.
Yeah.
I'm like, ugh.
I actually completely agree with you because, right, she's like one of the fates. They're like really old. There's supposed to be like 3 of them, and she's supposed to be the kind of most important one. So I'm going to do some fate lore dumping on you right now. So there are 3 fates. So there's Clotho, who spins the threads, and then there's I can never say her name, Lachesis, I know I've said that wrong, who like measures it out. So like says how long someone's going to live. And then there's Atropos who like cuts it. So like think Hercules, right? They do like all the spinning and weaving and stuff. But like I feel like, aren't they also connected to the maiden mother crone like mythos as well? Like, you know, the three women who are actually one woman, because they're all aspects of supposed femininity. You know, you're the maiden, and then you're the mother, and then you're the old lady. Right?
Matron, yeah.
So in that case, Atropos should be an old lady. She's the
she's the final stage.
She's the final, yeah. So why is she this like perky young librarian?
Yeah.
It made no sense to me, actually. Like, I think she should have been, if not more menacing all the time, there could have been like a flicker of her like true form that was like super creepy. Yeah, I would have appreciated that. So she's like, oh, she's just appearing to like, this is how she's choosing to appear. But actually, she's this like terrifying like being. Yeah, like death-like being, because that's who she is, right?
Yeah, I think that's also, I mean, I guess we've already seen other gods, you know, fall under the Christian, well, the, like, this, what am I trying to say? Like, okay, so the line is, that's way into the episode, and I'm sorry to skip so far ahead right at the beginning, but like, when she's talking about like how God gave her like directive, basically, I'm just like, but he wouldn't though, because he's not in your mythos. This God isn't in your like. I was just like, what?
They've weird religions are weird and supernatural, because there's like they've decided that God's like, he's just the guy, right? So everyone else is like being basically created by him. But that was also kind of disproved in, I can't remember what it was called. You know, where they like Hotel Babylon. Which might have actually been the name of the episode, to be fair. That they basically said they were kind of like done with his crap. So, and I feel like they weren't created by him. So I don't know. I don't think Supernatural ever decided for itself how that worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd like, fine. You're right. I think it would have been scarier to like, I guess in this case we don't see, but like I don't think we should have seen her till the reveal at the end, and then I think she should have been creepier in some aspect. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
So after the title card, we go to Bobby's house, and it's kind of like a directly comes on from the other episode. So Bobby is not in a good place. He's like drinking, and Sam and Dean are just watching him drink. And they have this little like aside between themselves where they're like, you say something, no, you say something, no, you say something. They play rock, paper, scissors, and Dean chooses scissors like he always does, and Sam chooses paper, so Dean wins, which is our first clue that this is not right.
Yeah.
Because Dean doesn't win rock, paper, scissors. So yeah, Sam steps up to Bobby, is like, but he doesn't get very far, because Bobby addresses them like, come on, you know.
This so-called Eve, mother, whatever, ain't gonna gank herself.
So I guess Eve still exists in this alternate universe. Oh, spoiler, it's an alternate universe.
Yeah. I think really, by the sounds of it, like the only thing that's different is that people like the Titanic didn't sink, so therefore there's all these other people, and that's it.
That's fine. Yeah. I guess that is the implication of like, if Ellen and Joe didn't die, like, what would have changed? That's really bad that their deaths didn't actually change anything then, right?
Yeah, I was about to go the exact same line of thought. I was like, what? Yeah, no, that was... But it's kind of spat in the face of that episode, really, doesn't it?
But that was also kind of the point, wasn't it? That their deaths didn't matter in the end, did they? Because they tried to shoot Lucifer and it didn't work.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Does that mean it did work in this one? No, because they don't say how the apocalypse didn't happen, so maybe it did.
No, but like, it definitely didn't. I think everything was probably the same. They still end, because because Atropos talks about that prize fight. So I feel like they were still there in the cemetery. It just hammers home that Ellen and Joe died for no reason. And everything else played out around them just as it would have done if they had lived, which is terrible. That's so sad.
Do you know, I kind of, because Joe wasn't even in this episode, like, they should have kept Joe dead, and like, she was the only one who sacrificed herself in that situation.
Yeah.
But Ellen managed to get out.
Oh, that's so sad.
And like, it's completely out of character and wouldn't work, but like, bringing up Joe, just being like, oh yeah, she's dealing with this all the way over there. Like, and it's like, yeah, okay, you didn't want to hire the actress again or whatever the reasons were, but like, I don't know, it was just silly.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. But yeah. Dean goes up to Bobby and he's like, oh, well, you haven't slept in days. And he says, oh, what are you, my wife now? Which again, suggesting that he does have a wife now. I don't know. It was a weird line, I feel. I think they tried to boot it in there, but it didn't really work.
Yeah.
So they're trying to look after him, and he's saying, like, it's not about Rufus. And Dean's like, well, he wasn't just a poker buddy. And Bobby comes back with this line, which is like,
when I knew Rufus was done for? The day I met him. The only question was who first, him or me? Now, you want to stand there and therapize? You want to give me some coffee?
So they kind of drop it at that point and leave. And Sam's like, well, this isn't about Rufus at all, is it? So they don't really know what to do. So they're deciding to take him on a job to kind of get out of his head. Sam has this newspaper clipping about 3 people that have been killed. The last guy got karate chopped by his garage door. He's like, and they're all blood relatives. So Dean jumps to a family curse and Sam's like, maybe. And as Dean turns around to say, hey, Grumpy, like Bobby's right there. And he's just like, I don't want to do crap. Leave me alone. Get out of my house. Both of you. You're driving me nuts. But he says it like quite calmly, but also quite firmly as like, get the hell out.
Yeah. It's just like, I think everybody's been in that situation where you've just been around somebody and just like, I need you to go away now. Like you've been here too long.
Yeah.
Just leave.
They leave because Bobby's like, go. Yeah. Although they try to argue, he's like, no, leave. So Sam and Dean walk out to the garage and there's this car there. It's a Mustang because it pans to the front and you can see the little horse on the front. And it's black, but it has 2 orange stripes. It's so wrong.
It is. The first thing I thought when I saw it was like, that car is so small. Like, it's so narrow.
Is it only a 3-door as well? It doesn't have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, does it have passenger seats? I think it does. But like, can you imagine Cass having to like push their seat forward every time he wants to like try and get in the back of the car?
Yeah, it wouldn't be good.
It has their original plates on as well. They're like Kaz plates. But they're like acting like there's nothing weird. So you're like, what's going on? Sam says, oh, maybe we should wait until she gets back. Like, ooh.
Who's a she?
Yeah. And Sam's like, oh, well, she just called from the road and said she'd be here soon. So do you really want to sit around and smell Bobby's stew and his juices? This is so gross. And Sam's like, no, leave.
Yeah.
So back in Bobby's kitchen, Bobby's pouring herself yet another drink. And Ellen suddenly walks in and says,
tell me you haven't been drinking this whole time.
You're worse than a boys.
There's this kind of like banter between them that's quite sweet, I think. She says, what is wrong with you, Bobby Singer? He just says, get a pen. It's a long list. And she says, you smell like a bar. And he's like, well, you don't exactly smell like a rose yourself. She's like, well, I've been hunting with Joe. So like name drops Joe in. Like, what's your excuse? She clearly lives there because she's unpacking like shopping and like food and stuff into their cupboards and fridge. And she kind of reminisces with him. She's like, I'm sorry. Like Rufus meant a lot to me too. Like, and then she's kind of softly like, go wash up. I'll fix you something up. And she kind of like kisses him on the cheek and says, that's why you married me, because he said like, you're a pain in my ass. So she says, go. And he's like, don't tell me what to do, Ellen. Yeah, I kind of like this exchange. I thought it was quite like married couple, like softly ribbing each other kind of thing, but also caring about each other. But I do what you mean about the chemistry, to be fair.
Like written down, it's very sweet, but it wasn't
on screen
executed well.
I know what you mean, yeah. So Sam and Dean have arrived at the garage where this guy died. There's no EMF, which they try first. Sam finds like some golden thread on the floor, and he's like, "Oh, what is it?" And Dean's like, "It's like Christmas tinsel." Sam then like rubs it against like a book or something, and it leaves like a gold sheen. He's like, "It's gold," because gold is a very soft metal, so if you spin it like that, it would do that. And they kind of theorize about why there might be gold there, but like it obviously is meaning something that this family is tied in some way. Because Dean says,
I mean, accidents don't just happen accidentally. You know what I mean?
It's not different as an accident. So Sam says he'll go check the family records, and Dean's going to go check the next of kin. So Dean turns up at this like lawyer's office, and he has like a pamphlet and stuff. He looks like one of these sort of ambulance chasers, as they call them on TV.
Yeah.
I really like the way Dean's dressed, because it's not his normal like FBI gear. He does look like some kind of ruffled academic. Mm-hmm. Like the way he's done his tie. He's been taking like tying lessons from Cass. It's all like slightly undone.
Right, yeah.
I thought that's quite good. So this guy called Russo is talking on his phone and just like ignoring Dean. He seems very rude.
Yeah.
And in between his conversation, Dean is explaining that he's researching genealogy. He's from the university, and he's looking at local families. And this guy doesn't really want to talk to him, but I think you can also tell that he does. Like, he would have just sent him away if he didn't want to. Like, it's almost like an ego boost, like this guy's talking to him. I don't know.
Yeah.
So Dean tries to get out. He says, "Can you tell me anything noteworthy about your family?" And he's like, "No, we're average, like from Italy." And he's like, "Okay. Anyone ever killed or maimed in a war?" And he's like, "No, what do you mean?" Dean's like, "Something that would sully further generations." This line of question is terrible. Why did they not send Sam?
And also what makes it even worse is that like this Russo guy kind of doesn't care that his like cousins are dying. Like he's like, we're not even close. So
that's very true, actually. He seems very cold.
Yeah. So like, why would he sit there and answer these like really bizarre questions?
I mean, Dean goes on to ask about like
Any ties to the Nazi party?
Excuse me?
Did Grandma ever piss off a gypsy?
And Dean immediately stands up and is like, "Look, I'll cut to the chase. Your life is in danger." Of course, this man is like, "Are you threatening me?"
I mean, Dean is very intimidating at this point.
He really is. And like, he doesn't say anything. He's like, "No, I'm not threatening you."
If you don't watch your back, you're gonna die.
Dean, my God.
That doesn't make it any better.
No. So Dean leaves, obviously.
Yeah.
On the street, he's talking to Sam, and he's like, "I didn't get anything apart from an ass hat and a shiny suit." And Sam's like, "Oh, not much on my end, but the great grandparents were born in, I don't know how to say that, Calabria? I should know how to say that. And they emigrated in 1912. So there's nothing interesting about them at all. And then we get another death scene. So there's this lady in a travel agent's. I don't know why, but she just looks like she's from the past. Like the 1980s.
She does. Yeah, there's definitely a look. And like what made it really funny to me, I didn't notice this until like she's in trouble.
Yeah.
She's got like white trainers on.
Yeah.
Jeans, like this weird like casual low cut top, and then a blazer, and you're just like, what are you dressed for? Like what? I didn't quite get where this outfit was going.
I guess like she's a travel agent, right? So she's on the phone or she's sat at a desk, so no one's going to see her trainers with jeans, like her casual jeans.
Maybe. I don't know. It's like, I don't know. I just recall when I was like a kid and having gone to a couple of travel agents before, like the company usually has like uniforms and you just like have a uniform shirt.
Yeah.
And, like, anyway, I don't know.
It was the
I guess her blazer was uniformed. Maybe, I don't know.
Oh yeah, I guess so. For me, it was the bump in her hair. There's something so early 2000s about wearing a bump. Like, I hear they're coming back into fashion, and I don't want anything. I don't want it.
Nope.
There's so many like kids on TikTok that are discovering like 90s trends, like butterfly clips and those horrible zigzag hairbands.
Yeah.
And they're like,
I never wore them, luckily, but yeah.
Yeah, you're like, no, I never did either. But I saw girls who wear them, wore them. All I'm saying is, traction alopecia is a thing. You don't need to like tie your hair back that much. Like,
nope. No, you don't.
Yeah, and I don't like that our generation of fashion is becoming like trendy again. I saw a kid. No. This is so off the topic. I saw a kid wearing like really wide leg jeans the other day, and I had like some kind of like horrible flashbacks.
Yeah.
Like,
I've seen a couple of them around. And I'm just like, no, don't do it.
Also, like
the struggles.
They were so dirty. They used to just
disgusting.
Like scrape on the pavement and get holes in, and then you'd like trip on the holes. But it was also kind of some horrible status symbol about how disgusting your jeans were.
Yep. I remember going to a sleepover, having walked all day in the rain.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, being like 13 years old, you don't bring clothes to your friend's sleepover. You just sleep in your own clothes.
Yeah.
So I slept in these massive baggy jeans that were soaking wet.
Oh.
And like, my legs were disgusting and then we had to walk home the next day, and like the ground was still wet because it was England, and I was just like, whatever. You just didn't care, like you didn't think about it until you got home, and you're just like, oh yeah, that's kind of gross.
I think back to it now, and I think how bad we must have all smelled.
Yeah, but we're also teenagers, so like we didn't smell. That's the thing. Like, I mean, yeah, kids sweat, but like not that much.
Yeah, I don't know. I maybe feel like we were all a bit nose blind.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, you're probably right about that, actually.
Oh, it was the makeup for me. Like, I found an old picture, and it's just the like solid black line just under the eye, like nothing on top.
Yep, nowhere else.
No flicks, nothing on top, just like a full, like raccoon.
Like, think the current Crow, like the reboot of the Crow movie, like where he like just gets I think it's tattoo ink actually.
What was that?
He just like puts it right under it. That was what we did.
That was what we did. That was fully it. I only had a pencil. That was all I had. I didn't have any liquid eyeliner. I didn't own it.
No.
Didn't own any kind of eyebrow product. I'd only red orange lipstick, like the most sticky kind you can imagine.
Good times.
Good times. Yes. Anyway, so this woman from 2011 wearing a bump, bless her. She is a travel agent. We see time stop, and this blonde woman walks in, who we later find out is Atropos. She takes the keys from her handbag and puts them under the photocopier, so that when time restarts, like, the woman's looking for her keys and she's looking all around, and eventually she spots them. She goes to get them, and then like through some bizarre turn of events, she like spills water on the photocopier, and then it starts like sparking. That would never happen, I feel. And when she's trying to like stop it, it then eats her scarf and ends up like strangling her to death. Yeah. Yep. This is why we don't wear loose clothes in the office.
That's true. But also, just walk away.
Just walk away.
She's like, batting at it, like trying to stop this thing. But like, I'm pretty sure those big copiers literally have like a switch on the side that you could just go. I know. I say this.
No.
Panic always kicks in, so like your brain doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I get it, but like at the same time, it's just like it's kind of weird. But then also the way that the scarf is like caught on her neck.
Yeah, the way she's tied
you can
it.
see it doesn't get.
Yeah.
You can see it doesn't get tighter and tighter, and I was just like, oh, anyway, whatever. It's fine. It's fine. And like this is another one that I'm just like, if you're gonna do Final Destination, we needed more than like she knocked over something. Like that shouldn't have been the obvious thing that killed her. Like she should have been able to get out, and then she like trips over like spilled water, and that's how she gets killed or whatever.
Yeah. As she dies, we see Atropos again, and she opens her book and crosses out a name and flicks kind of like the ribbon thing that is in the book. It's like made of golden threads, and one falls down onto the floor. I guess it's supposed to be like metaphorically she's cut that thread.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is maybe also why the guy nearly gets his eyes impaled on his garden shears. Chop chop. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't
Didn't think about that.
Yeah, I don't feel like they would have thought about it though, you know.
I guess the visual of that is more like,
yeah. Or always reminds me, the one that always sticks in my mind from Final Destination is when that girl is doing like a handspring on a balance beam and there's like a nail there, and you're like, no,
no.
no.
I haven't. I've watched only that movie because I don't enjoy this kind of thing.
Fair.
Like that. Those movies like get my anxiety like way up, and I don't really want to deal with that for like an hour and a half. So like, so after watching that one, I was like, I'm good. But yeah, like that one sticks, and of course everybody knows the log one.
Oh yeah, the log one. Yeah, the thing is good. Yeah. But yeah, so Atropos strikes again. She should have had a pair of scissors in her like pocket or something, you know, like so you just see the handle, because she's wearing like a suit with a pocket, like just something to identify who she might be.
Yeah, and like. I guess her sisters have already made all the string. That's why because it's like a bookmark, right?
Yeah.
That she's using the string as, well, this bundle of strings. So maybe like her sisters have already made it, and that's why she has them all there. But like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird.
It was weird. It definitely was. So it's now nighttime, and Sam and Dean are sneaking into the office, and they're sort of looking around, and they find out who she was, and she's not related to the Russo, so it has to be something else. Because there's no connection whatsoever between the Russos and her family. They look around, and then Dean finds another piece of golden thread on the floor.
Hold on. Not nothing.
So Sam's on his laptop doing some research, and Dean is on the phone with Ellen, and essentially Joe is also dealing with the same kind of issue. So I'm wondering maybe if like, even though it's Atropos who's supposed to be cutting all the strings, maybe like her sisters are in other locations, because Joe's in LA or California dealing with the same thing.
Yeah. I think Atropos can just be out anywhere, right? Like,
it would make sense. It's like death.
Yeah, I think similar kind of vibe.
So they're, sort of going back and forth as to what it could be. Dean asks how Bobby's doing, because Ellen's like having him look into what this could be. And Bobby's kind of in the kitchen too. And he's like, Ellen says, I'm kicking his ass back to health and happiness. And Bobby's like, who asked you to? To hell with you. And he like walks out. Honestly, like, we need some more caring lines, please, Bobby. Yeah. Like, I'm a little concerned of all these, like, go to hell. I hate you. Like, who asked you to, don't tell me what to do? I'm like, oh, God, no. That sounds horrible to be married to.
Yeah. It's how he shows love, through grumpiness.
Yeah, but you need to show love in actual loving ways, too.
That's very true.
Ellen says, like, oh, he'll be fine. And then Dean asks if she's okay.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, you're so sweet. Like, you know me, I'm just worried about you boys.
Oh.
And, like, Ellen's like, well, you know, I keep digging up one thing, but I'm not sure what to make of it. And as she's on the phone, she's like cooking some like stew or something. And she's like sniffing it, adding seasonings and things like that. And it turns out that all these families came over the same year and on the same boat. And they ask what the boat was, and it's the Titanic. And you're just like, oh, what?
I'm sorry, but I feel like this is some of the worst acting from all of them I've ever seen.
I know. But like, how do you act like the Titanic didn't sink? Like, really, how do you act
It's actually like the Titanic. Who? Never heard of her.
Exactly. Like, I commend them for trying, but it was very much like, no, that's not quite it. So they hang up, and Ellen was like drinking a beer that she had taken from Bobby to, you know, get him to stop drinking, and she like pours some of it in the pot, and like it cuts back to Dean, and he turns to Sam and says,
Does the name Titanic ring a bell? Titanic? No.
Come on, man.
yeah. So he starts to do some research, and, you know, he says that it made its voyage across the North Atlantic in 1912. And Dean's like, so what's the deal? Like, it's a ship, it sailed. And then he says that it almost hit an iceberg. And the first mate who spotted it was Mr. I.P. Freely. And of course, it was Balthazar who did that. And I think this just, I don't know, emphasizes my point, solidifies my point that if heaven was divided into the like archangel factions, like there are people under Gabriel, people under Michael, people under Raphael, people under Lucifer, etc. Balthazar was definitely under Gabriel.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because this is a total Gabriel move. Like no one else would call themselves IP freely.
And also, like, if he hadn't done that, they may not have figured out what was. I mean, they would have, but it would have taken much longer.
Yeah, they wouldn't think to like look up a picture to see who Mr. IP Freely is.
Yeah,
and it, you know, obviously it's Balthazar. They then do a summoning spell, and I was thinking, how do they even know how to do this? But I forgot that Sam had already done this when he was soulless. And Balthazar shows up. He's like, oh, you know, why are you so upset? And he's like, what the hell, a boat? It's like, the Titanic. I said, oh yeah, the Titanic. Well, it was meant to sink, and I saved it.
Why?
Why what?
Why did you unsink the ship?
Oh, because I hated the movie.
What movie?
Exactly.
I do love this. I will say this whole little bit was somewhat worth this episode.
Yeah, I agree.
That Sam starts to say, so you saved a cruise liner because, and he says, because that
god-awful Celine Dion song made me want to smite myself.
He's like, who's Celine Dion? And what a slight to Celine Dion.
Yeah.
Really. Especially after her performance at the Paris Olympics.
Yeah.
He then says, oh, she's a destitute lounge singer in somewhere in Quebec. And let's keep it that way, please. Let's not, shall we?
Yeah.
She was very, very good. It was just like, she's had some weird songs.
I don't know. I think I quite like a lot of her songs. That's a lot of the sound of my childhood. Is my mum playing Celine Dion like songs in the car.
So you're biased.
Yeah, I am.
Sam was like, well, I didn't think it was possible to change history. And Bath is like, well, haven't you noticed there's no more rules?
Sam's reaction is so hypocritical. Sorry, but like,
go why is that?
Because, like, obviously Balthazar says, like, there's no rules, and he's like, oh, the nerve on you. You just unsank a giant boat. Like, they wouldn't do that the first chance they got. If they got taken back in time to the Titanic before it hit the iceberg, they would try and stop the Titanic from sinking. They would.
They certainly would. Dean definitely would. Yeah.
It's like that whole episode of Doctor Who where they go to Pompeii. And Donna's like, you have to stop the eruption from happening. And the Doctor's like, I can't. It would change time. But like, Sam and Dean are Donna, right? They'd be like, yeah, let's stop the volcano from erupting if we can. Because that's who they are. So, like, for him to be like, oh, how dare you? Like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel like we've had like a consequences speech really about changing the past yet.
No.
Not really. Like Dean tried to do it, but it didn't work because it was never going to work. So yeah, they would do the same thing, but I guess that's the thing, right? So Sam is saying here that like, yeah, okay, even though Balthazar's like, I save people, I thought that was your thing. Sam's like, well, yeah, but those people and their kids are all like dying now, and the people that they've interacted with, you know, so much has changed.
You totally butterfly affected history. Dude. Rule 1. No Kutcher references.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Apparently Balthazar is just not a fan of like 2010 cinema.
Yeah.
Or like cinema maybe in general. Because he doesn't like the Aston Kutcher either.
Yeah.
There you go. He confirms that, like, you know, you still averted the apocalypse. There's still archangels. It's just the small details that are different. Like, you don't drive an Impala. And Sam and Dean look at each other. He's like, yes, what's an Impala? Trust me, it's not important. It's just like, actually,
It's quite important.
Balthazar.
Yeah.
It's quite important. And of course, Ellen and Joe are alive.
Yeah.
And he says it so cavalier as he's like walking over to the counter and he picks up like a bottle of alcohol. I don't know what it is, like whiskey probably. And he's just like, oh yeah, they're supposed to be dead. You know, you see, I saved a boat. One thing leads to another, which leads to another 1,000 things. Yada, yada, yada. Cut to a long story short. They don't die in a massive explosion. And he's like, well, anyway, let's agree. I did a good thing. One less Billy Zane movie. And I saved 2 of your closest friends. And now somebody's killing all the descendants of the survivors. And Balthazar's like, and that's maybe like 50,000 people. And we need to save as many as we can, but we don't know who's after him. And he's like,
Sorry, you have me confused with the other angel? You know, the one in the dirty trench coat who's in love with you?
oh, he called it out.
Okay. If not canon, why did they cut to Dean?
Oh. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's no real reaction either. It's just like, well, that's true, I guess. You're not wrong.
I just said maybe in this timeline they've accepted it.
Maybe you're right. Just the small details, you know, the fact that like
that they're in love.
They're in love.
Should we make another Hercules reference and start singing I Won't Say I'm in Love?
Yeah. Ooh, at least out loud. No, but like, okay, I'm just saying, look, this line is iconic. Also, I can't believe the writers didn't like predict the whole like fan fiction, we're going to ship these characters kind of thing. But then first of all, they write stuff like this. And second of all, they didn't cut to Sam, they cut to Dean. They say, oh yeah, the angel who's in love with you, cut to Dean. And Dean makes a slightly confused face, cut back. Where's Sam in this equation?
Right. Yeah. Because he says in love with you.
Yeah.
You. Like, it's not you guys, humanity. Yeah. Whatever, it's you.
There's another Destiel moment in this episode, but it's slightly more niche, and I'll point it out when we get there. Slightly more niche to me.
Fair enough. Yeah. So he's like, well, you know, I don't care. Goodbye. Yeah. And he like disappears.
I love that Balthazar does call out this a few times actually, like about Cass and Dean. There's a few instances. Yeah. I feel like there's at least one more before this season ends.
I mean, why else would Cass burn the book that's already been written?
Right. Exactly.
tore out the pages and burned them. Like, who else? You're not going to do that for no reason.
There's some
do that for love.
there's some good cast stuff in this episode. I really like that. I'm going to say my realization here, actually, because I wonder if partly why Balthazar thinks this and has said it is because I guess this is spoilers for the rest of the episode, but whatever, you've watched it. We know that Cass sent him back to unsink the Titanic. Did Cass choose that particular historical event knowing that it would bring Ellen and Joe back for Dean and Sam? But Dean, because
that's interesting.
Like, he was there when they got exploded, and he knew how sad it was, and like kind of the emotions around that, especially for Dean, because you know he kissed Joe and everything. I know Cass wasn't actually there for that event,
Right.
But I wonder if he did choose this particular moment in time, because I'm sure there are other disasters that he could have prevented to gain even more souls. So yeah, it makes me wonder if Ellen and Joe were the deciding factor in that, and that he chose it for them. And I guess also to make it less likely that they would try and stop it from happening, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah. They won't go back on it. Yeah, because he knows how kind of selfish they are when it comes to family.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. Because there's no reason to say that he couldn't see the outcome of each of the disasters that he could prevent.
Yeah. And there are other, like a bunch of people died in the Titanic, and it's very famous, but like there are other disasters you could avert that would result in more people, like Pompeii. Right?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I mean, any of the world wars.
Yeah.
The First World War, he could have stopped.
Yeah. Anything they could have stopped. Like, I guess maybe this was like a smaller one. Maybe they're going to like test it out to see how it goes.
Yeah, true.
And maybe it had like the least effect on the timeline. But I think it's because of Ellen and Joe. This is my theory that is never confirmed.
Right, because this is the last time we ever see Ellen, actually.
Yeah.
After this.
Yeah.
Nada. Nada. So Sam has Bobby on the phone, and they are talking through what Balthazar just revealed. And Bobby's like, oh, okay, that actually makes sense, because he's got an idea of who they're up against, and it's fate. And he's like, at least one of them. And it shows like a book with a golden thread.
Yeah.
And Sam's like, oh, you mean the Greek mythology, like the sisters? And Dean's like, nerd.
Oh yeah, Dean, like you never watched Hercules. Come on.
Right? Or like, he knows.
He knows.
That.
Yeah, just
Of course he knows.
ribbing him. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Bobby goes on to say, like, these ladies are responsible for how you go down, literally. If you get creamed by a garage door or crunched by a copy machine, they're the ones who hammer out the details of how you die, which I think is really funny, because the way that the lady the actress like decided was just so like random. She's like, oh, keys.
Yeah.
That'll work. I don't feel like that was particularly planned. It was just like, that one.
You're right. Yeah, it seems really random. What I think this does imply, though, is that she wrote / is writing the books that are in Death's library.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right, and so that's the person who gives the Reapers the list.
I don't know, but I feel like that gets confirmed. I feel like I'm not just pulling this out of nowhere. I mean, obviously this line, but like I feel like maybe it is there is some reference to this later in Supernatural, because I'm sure Atropos comes back. Maybe I'm imagining it, but yeah, it would imply that she's writing the books, which I guess means I don't know. I feel like this is only my headcanon. I feel like she writes the books, but like the Reapers have to almost like review them, and like Death kind of comes up with the list. She has like, or I guess he in this case, they have like a admin assistants to like get the list from
Billy the whole time.
Yeah, to get the list from the books to kind of ultimately do it. But then it kind of like trickles down, so the Roofers kind of never really know where it's coming from.
Mm-hmm. I mean, in leading with that, because Bobby does say one of them writes it all down in her day planner of death.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, yeah, makes sense. So he's like, anyway, that fits. Now we know that what Balthazar did, it seems to me that fate is trying to clean up the mess. And like, they're like, well, how do we stop fate? Good question. Like, and then Bobby says, you know, we just have to resink the boat. And Dean is like, no, we can't do that. Forget it. And this is the first time you hear this line.
Big difference between dying awful and never being born, Dean.
Like, what does that mean? What does that mean in the context of like what's going on with everything? Like, something is this. It can't not mean nothing.
They say it so many times. Maybe it was just like for us to not feel so bad about them resinking the Titanic. I don't know. Or not feeling so bad about like Ellen and Joe dying again. I don't know.
Because this line has actually been used before.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why it's being used now. When they go back in time, the second time to go see Mary and John, essentially they're saying, like, at one point, Sam says, like, you know, it would have been better if I wasn't born.
Yeah.
Like, we should I can't remember if they have to get rid of one of them or whatever. But that was basically the sentiment. Like, I'll never know that I never existed.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, is it it's not a callback. Clearly it's not a callback, but like.
It feels like foreshadowing. Like, that's what it feels like. But I'm thinking, like, what is it foreshadowing? Maybe within a few episodes be like, oh. Or
Yeah, probably.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's probably something to do with the souls, right? There's probably like, Dean's probably going to make some sort of statement that like, you can't do this to the souls because they're souls, they're going to feel something.
Yeah.
And like, Cass will be like, oh, but they'll never know because they were never meant to exist. Or something. It feels like something.
Yeah.
Like yeah. And Dean is so is very adamant that they're not going to sink the ship, and Bobby wants to know why. Dean doesn't really want to tell him, but eventually relents and says, like, look, a whole bunch of dominoes gets tipped over if the Titanic goes down, and bottom line is Ellen and Joe die. And this like instantly changes Bobby's mind, and like, you know, do not let those angels sink the boat. And like, they're all in agreement, obviously.
Yeah.
After Bobby hangs up, Dean says, you know, it's bad enough with her. I can't imagine how it would be if she was gone. Which does imply that their relationship is much longer than just the apocalypse.
I think so. I definitely think so. And it was the picture as well, because there's a picture of him and Alan stood outside the like scrapyard. It has both their names on the sign.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So now they have to figure out how they're going to save 50,000 people. And they have no idea. But they figured they might as well talk to the one person who they know is related to all these people. And it's the lawyer, Russo. It was at this point in this episode, because they're outside for a long period of time, that I was like, this is way too bright.
Yeah, it is.
Like, it's so... Like, it's got that, like... This isn't reality kind of vibe to it, because it's so bright, so bright.
Yeah, I agree.
So Sam and Dean spot Russo across the street, and he's on the phone talking to somebody, and they kind of go after him, and they're sort of trying to flag him down, shouting out his name. And also, while this is happening, you see a guy driving like a small truck, and he's like trying to drink his coffee, but it's kind of not working very well. The lid's not on properly. Russo finally pays attention to Dean, and he's like, leave me alone. Like, what are you doing? And the driver of the car van thing spills his coffee, is like trying to, you know, pat himself down, not paying attention to the road. Russo almost gets hit, but Dean like pulls him out and like saves him. But that just gets Russo even more annoyed, like, because he's a smarmy lawyer man. And as he walks away, he gets hit by a bus, and it's very bloody.
It's grim. It's grim. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the bus has got his face on the back, and like Dean makes a comment about it, like, you gotta be kidding me. Yeah. I guess the implication is like that he represents, like, he is an ambulance chaser, like he represents people who would get like hit by a bus and survive or whatever. So ironic.
It's supposed to be ironic, yeah.
Dean says too soon, and Sam's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure 6 seconds is too soon, which I feel like he said before as well, like that exact line.
Yeah.
Sam somehow spots Atropos looking at them from a nearby like building. I don't know how he spots her. I have no idea.
So I think the thing that gives it away, right, is that it's like an abandoned building. So why would there be like this pristine looking woman like standing in the window? But at the same time, like somebody just got hit by a bus and died in a really dramatic way. Of course, everybody turns and looks to see what's going on. Like, yeah, okay.
Anyway, so he spots her and he's like, she looks like a librarian. And Dean says, your kind of librarian or my kind of librarian? And Sam says, well, she was wearing clothes, if that was what you mean. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
So Dean starts walking over there and Sam's like, no, we can't just go. And he's like, we're not on the hit list. Like, we're fine. Let's go have a chat.
I love the fact that they think they're not on the hit list for fate when they've been constantly fighting. I know they call it destiny, but destiny and fate go hand in hand, really.
Yeah.
Like, of course you're on the hit list. You didn't, like, you averted the apocalypse. There's a war right now happening to try and start it again. Like, she's gonna be annoyed. And
like, also, like, when are they not on the hit list of anything?
Yes,
right?
True.
Just like by existing, they're on it. Like, come on.
Yep.
So they walk into this building, and we see Atropos stop time like she did before, and she turns on 1 million gas dials. Like, there's so many, and lets all this gas into the air, and then starts to time up again. And Dean's like, hello? And his flashlight starts to go out. Sam says, do you have a lighter? And we've seen all this gas. You would smell that gas. I know it's in the next room, but I feel like you would smell that gas. That's a lot of gas.
Yeah, I agree. It was.
So they're kind of walking towards these doors, and Dean's like messing with the lighter, and it's like not lighting straight away. It's very tense. And just as they get to the door, it lights, and we see this explosion, and they get yanked by Cass to what he calls White Russia, which I did Google this. I think it's Belarus. Like it's an old name for Belarus. I don't know why it was called that, to be fair. But yeah, I feel like maybe they should have just called it Belarus.
Well, maybe because maybe Cass doesn't know what the modern name of it is. That's why.
I think that's the assumption, isn't it? Like, that's really random. Yeah.
But like, I guess maybe he didn't want to take them somewhere in America because he knows that the fates are in America. So he took them to a whole other continent.
Yeah, which is kind of stupid because, like you said, they're like jumping all over the like America killing people. So like, why can't she just immediately move? I guess it's far enough away that she kind of has to zone in on them at least. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah.
We never kind of wonder about stuff like that.
No.
So Dean turns on him and he's like,
Are you aware of what your frat bro did?
I'm aware Balthazar can be impetuous.
And Dean's like, well, if Fate's going after the people from the boat, why is she trying to kill me and Sam? And he does say what we just said. It's like, well, she harbors a certain degree of rage towards you. When Sam asks what they did, Cass says nothing of import, just, averting the apocalypse and rendering her obsolete. I think maybe she's a little irritated about that. And then you go and dangle yourself in front of her. I really love this conversation. Dean says, so we've pissed Fate off personally. And it's like, yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. Mm-hmm. That's your whole thing.
Yep.
So what do we do?
Kill her.
Kill Fate.
Do you have another suggestion?
No, I just mean, can you even do that?
Which seems crazy, but again, this is supernatural and it's what they do. Like the whole fate versus freedom thing. It's all distilled actually into this conversation. This one and one a bit later, actually, I think. So Cass says that Balthazar has a weapon that will work against her. And Dean's really protective of Cass. He's like, yeah, of course he does. You need new friends, Cass. This guy's a bad, this guy's a bad dude. He's getting into trouble. So they agree that they're going to lure her out. Cass's plan is...
We'll make it easy for her. I think you have an expression for it. Tempting fate.
We cut to Bobby's house again, and Ellen is on the phone and telling Bobby that Joe said that more people have died, and asking what is Sam and Dean going to actually do? And Bobby just says, if anyone can pull this out of their ass, those two can.
Yep.
And Ellen's like, well, yeah,
Cleanest fix would just be to sink the boat.
And they basically have the same conversation that Dean had with Bobby about you can't do that. And Ellen's like, why can't you do that? And Bobby's really evasive. And eventually she just says you're a neon sign. I can be out of you. We could just skip that part. Dealer's choice. And so we cut.
Well, so this is also where she says the same sentiment of they're all dying bloody.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, because she says it's the cleanest fix to sink the boat, and Bobby says, why would you say that? But he says it really why would you say that? And she's like,
Well, because right now they're all dying bloody. It's not the same as never being born.
it's so pointed. What does it mean?
What does it mean?
Anyway, so we cut to them sitting at the kitchen table, and this is what we were talking about at the beginning of the episode. There's some real tight shots in here.
It is. It's very close.
For no particular reason.
It's supposed to be emotional. You have to see the emotion on their faces. It's yeah, but neither, they're kind of accepting of it.
Yeah.
So it's not that emotional.
It's not actually that emotional. So Ellen's saying just not just me, but Joe too. And so Bobby is reassuring that they're not going to sink the boat. The boat stays. You don't have to worry. Whereas Ellen's a bit more well, if it's meant to be, then I guess whatever happens, happens. And Bobby's like, well, that's just my point. Nothing's meant to be. Whether we're together is at the whim of some dick angel. When Ellen's like, relax, it's going to be fine. Bobby just says, I can't. We need you, especially me. And she says, I know. Right. And this is my other little Destiel point. And it's pretty out there. But it's not actually. I've said this before. I need you is I love you in supernatural language. Right?
Yes.
Or we need you. And that's precisely what Dean says to Cass when he's getting beaten to a pulp in that crypt. In the same kind of intonation of I need you. We need you. Yeah. Yeah. Just saying.
So, I mean, some of the stuff that she's saying here, being so accepting of what it's meant to be, and the way that the Russo guy was kind of kind of uncaring, didn't seem particularly happy. And then the guy in the beginning also, being annoyed that this thing doesn't work. And then the travel agent not being able to sell a package. I wonder if they themselves know they're not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
And that way they're not particularly happy with their lives.
That's really interesting. Yeah, possibly some kind of nagging feeling that they have, which is maybe why she's so accepting of this. It's possible. Yeah. Interesting thought. Yeah. Because you're right, they're all kind of going a bit wrong, aren't they? But it's also linked to their deaths. I'm not sure. Why not? Why not? Oh, and then, all right. Okay, so then we cut.
So this is where I was talking about where the tone shifts are so weird. Because we just had this really emotional moment of Bobby saying that I love you, as he's pointed out. And then we get this whole joke of a sequence straight out of Mystery Spot.
It's that song. It's one way or another. Yeah, that song.
Yep.
And Dean and Sam are just walking along, and all this stuff happens near them. A cyclist nearly hits them. there's a guy with 2 dogs, which obviously like Dean avoids because he's scared of dogs because, you know, he had his guts ripped out by some invisible ones not that long ago. And then they walk into like some street performers who are juggling knives and axes. And as they're just about to like walk past them, they like set some of their juggling sticks on fire. Like, and Sam's like, just keep walking. And he says, they're juggling knives and hatchets. And Sam says, yeah, I know. Can't avoid fate. And they walk like right between them. I guess they're trying to make it happen, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The jammed nail gun of the construction worker was horrendous. And like, nothing happens. And Dean just stands in the middle of the street and is like, what do you have to do to get killed around here? When suddenly from the sky, like a huge air conditioner. I thought it was a piano to start with, but that would have been too funny. They already did the piano falling on the
nose.
Yeah, or falling on Dean. So it falls on them, but then time stops. This was so cheesy.
Yeah. Yep.
It was full of like just the way it happened is like, whoa. It was basically French Mistake, like Fade to Black. Like that kind of.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah. But how else were they gonna do that?
Yeah.
Like really?
Fine.
Yeah.
So I have to say in this next segment, I don't know if I'm just because I'm looking at this with 2024 eyes, the green screen was so bad.
Yeah, it was bad. Yeah,
it's not their fault because the technology, but like watching it back now, I'm like, this green screen was bad. Yeah.
So we come back and Athropos and Cass are talking, and he's like, "You look well." Was this flirty? This felt very flirty. Like
I didn't feel this was flirty. I don't know. It was just a bit like bitchy on Cass's side. Like he was just being like,
well, I mean, she is trying to kill his like love and best friend. So.
It just feels like Cass is a bit too big for his boots right now. You know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's all that power is going to his head for sure.
I mean, yes, it is.
Yeah, and it continues to do so. Cass tries to reason with her and says, you know, let's try and talk about this. She's like, well, what is there to talk about? Like, you and those 2 circus clowns destroyed my work. You ruined my life. I'm just like, I don't know. It made me not like her character even more. I don't know.
I'm kind of on her side just for the fact that she's a woman and Cass tells her not to get emotional, and I immediately got on her side at that point.
I agree. Yeah. Don't say that to anybody, but especially not a man to a woman. Like, come on. Like,
you wouldn't be saying don't get emotional if she was a guy.
Yeah, no, you're right. You are absolutely right. She then goes on to explain.
I had a job. God gave me a job. We all had a script. I worked hard. I was really, really good at what I did.
Good for you. Until the big day of the prize fight. And what happened? You throw out the book. And Cass then says, well, I'm sorry, but freedom is more preferable. Mm-hmm. Team free will.
This is the conversation where I'm like, oh my gosh, this conversation is starting to like really let you see like the essence of Cass's character, like how much he values freedom over destiny and how much he had a hand in freeing everybody. Like it's actually his fault.
Yeah. Yep. And Athropos is like, freedom, this is chaos. How is this any better? You know, I went to heaven, but nobody wouldn't even talk to me. And Cass is like, you know, we have more pressing matters at hand. I guess because everybody's so used to having a script that basically not knowing what to do next is freaking her out. Because she's like, I don't know what happens next. I need to know it's what I do.
And this is pretty much the crux of the civil war that's happening, because Raphael is like kind of promising that stability, because like, right, okay, we'll just get back on script. We'll restart the apocalypse and everyone will fulfill their roles as they were supposed to. Like, no more uncertainty. Like, don't worry about it at all. whereas Cass is offering the complete opposite. He's like, do what you want.
Yeah.
That's really hard for people who have basically lived in like a convent their whole lives, right? Where that's pretty much what the angels are. Yeah. So it's an interesting insight, but like I also feel like you have to read into it a bit.
Yeah. Cass then basically fires her. And she goes on to say that,
You know what? I've kept my mouth shut. I could have complained, I could have raised a fuss, but I didn't.
which, by the way, if there is something wrong at your job, raise a fuss.
Oh yeah.
Make your voice known, make that complaint. Don't do this, don't hold it in, because you will be fired.
And someone will...
You'll be the first one to go.
Yeah, someone will unsink your Titanic, you know? Something... Yeah.
Yep, exactly. But you know what the last straw was? Unsinking Titanic. You change the future. You cannot change the past. That's going too far. And he's like, it was Balthazar, like trying to really convince himself like he'd had nothing to do with it. She's like, no, it wasn't. You know, it wasn't about a stupid movie. He's under your orders. You sent him back in time to save that ship. He said, no, I didn't. Why would I? And he's like, oh, maybe because we are in the middle of a war and you're desperate. Come on, this is all about the souls. You know, that angel went and created 50,000 new souls for your war machine. You can't just mint money, Cass or Castiel. It's wrong, it's dangerous, and I won't let you.
You don't have a choice.
Maybe I don't. So here's a choice for you. If you don't go back and sink that boat, I'm gonna kill your 2 favorite pets.
And they kind of have like this bit of a standoff between the two of them of like who's more powerful. Because Cass says, you know, I won't let you. And she says, oh yeah, what are you gonna do? And do you really want to test me? Athapos then goes on to say, okay, fine, but think about this. I've got 2 sisters out there. They're big. See, again, they're bigger in every sense of the word. But like, why? Why would they be bigger than her?
I guess you would say like the Weaver is probably the most powerful one. I don't know though, it's difficult. They're all supposed to be equal because they're all the same aspect of each other. So they're not really like... She should have said something like, and together we're more powerful than you or whatever. Like, do you know what I mean? They'll back me up and together we are a really powerful force. Something like that. Not that they specifically are more powerful than her. It doesn't really make sense for the mythology. But like, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't behind this line. Anyway. Kill me, Sam and Dean are target number 1 for simple vengeance. We'll see, because like they killed your sister, so they're going to go after. And she's like, oh, you know, you're not fighting a war or anything. You can watch them every millisecond of every day, because you know you've heard that fate strikes when you least expect it, which causes Cass to like rethink this course of action, and he tells Balthazar to stop, who's like right behind her, like sneaky with a knife, and he's like, I'll just put this away.
Awkward.
That's so funny. I don't know why that's so funny. His pose, his like facial expression, like he's great. Sebastian Roche's like a great actor. He just made this episode so silly.
He did. Yep. So they're going to set everything right. Balthazar's going to go do it, and they unfreeze time, and Sam and Dean disappear, and the air conditioner crashes to the ground, but nobody's underneath. Yeah. So the day is saved thanks to Cass's indecisions.
Well, yeah, I thought this was really interesting. I thought this conversation was really interesting. I guess on a rewatch, it doesn't hit as hard, but like the first time you watch it, you're like, oh my God, Cass is behind this. Like, you can fully believe that Balthazar would do something as petty as, like, change the past because of a bad movie. Like, but actually, now, you know, knowing what you know about souls and everything, it all does make sense. And you can see that it's true because Cass is a terrible, terrible liar.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I think the only reason that he's able to lie and get away with it is because he in himself is so socially awkward at times, like his body language is quite awkward, that you would mistake his clear tells that he's lying for just awkwardness. That's the only way he gets away with this.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, Dean also wants to find reasons to believe Cass is telling the truth.
That's also very true.
That's
yeah.
part of it, I think, as well. So he might kind of suspect something, but doesn't want to believe that he's being lied to.
Because ultimately, like, Cass is on their side. Like you say, it's team free will.
Yeah.
He turned his back on heaven for them. Like, why would he betray them now? Why would he be involved in all of this? They just think he's fighting the good fight somewhere, not that he's, like, actively involved in all the shenanigans that are going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, I guess they have never seen Cass as a leader because he's always followed their lead.
That is so true.
You're right. So they can't imagine him being at the head of an army making all of these really hard decisions, especially since when it comes to hard decisions, Sam and Dean never make the right choice.
It's just you're so right.
Whereas Cass is willing to create 50,000 souls and then sacrifice them, that's something that they would never do because they are not leaders in that way. Just
like the way they perceive Cass is so wrong, like to who he actually is. To him, he's just a nerdy little angel dude. But like, actually, no, he's like a general of an army. They very seriously like underestimate him. And I don't think that ever changes.
I don't think so either.
I think that's part of his frustration with them. And I do think that comes out every now and then. It was like, you should respect me more, than you do.
But then also, Cass gives up that position too.
Yeah.
Because you think about it, like, when Heaven gets put back into some sort of order, with Naomi at the helm, all because Cass has disappeared, basically. Yeah. Like, he doesn't ever take back Heaven.
No. Like, he's like the rebel leader, Dean loves Star Wars. He would love this side of Cass, and he never really, like, sees it. That's so funny to me. Yeah. Because I think in later seasons, Cass desperately just wants to be their nerdy little angel guy that they see him to be, and is constantly just getting dragged into plot, like, against his will.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I see that. Like, I guess it's all because of this, right? He doesn't want to go through this again. He doesn't want to have to make these decisions again. He wants somebody else to take, like, this position was put upon him because people, like you said, he's a rebel leader. And most of the time they happen because that leader did something that inspired others. And he didn't mean to inspire anybody, but he did. And now he's here and he doesn't want to do that again.
Exactly. And like, to be fair, like the rest of Cass's decisions and personality are trying to make up for what he does in this season. Like, he carries so much guilt. Like Sam carries so much guilt. Him and Cass are quite similar in a lot of ways. Obviously, Dean does as well, but I don't think he so overtly shows how he carries that guilt like Sam and Cass do.
And I guess the weight of their actions are different. Yeah. Like obviously Cass's decisions lead to like half of Heaven getting like destroyed basically. And I feel like some of Sam's decisions get a lot of people killed as well.
They're both leaders, right? We've said this before, like Sam is a leader. He was supposed to be the general of the demon army. Cass was supposed to be he is now the general of like the angel army. They have a lot in common, which is why they're besties.
They can go get a drink together and be like, oh, these people, man, can't they make their own decisions?
I do feel like Sam and Dean. I feel like Sam and Cass do kind of like sit around swapping war stories in a way that like they can't with Dean. Yeah.
I think so too.
It's really interesting that actually, like, I never really looked at their relationship that way, but I think it's true. Yeah. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was good. I guess it's a shame he's like revealing everything to Atropos, but it does kind of give you a flavor of what's coming up, and also how much, I said before, how much Cass values freedom over order. Like, he's fine for things to be chaotic, but there needs to be freedom in the chaos.
Yeah. And there's always freedom in chaos. It's just like, that's what chaos is. There's nothing's predictable, like, you know. So we then cut back to Bobby's graveyard. Scrapyard.
It kind of is though, isn't it? Like...
Yes, it's a car graveyard, yeah.
No, in the like more literal senses, there's definitely, like we said, people buried under there.
You're right. Yep. There definitely are. Celine Dion's song "My Heart Will Go On" is playing, and Sam and Dean are asleep in the car, which I guess they were en route to another case. That's why they're in the car and not like. Because I'm sure when they stay at Bobby's, they don't sleep in the car.
I think that's why just Cass zapped them. Like, because they're probably there looking after Bobby, and he didn't know where else to put them, so he just put them in the car. And then Balthazar turned on the music because he's hilarious.
They get out of the car and...
I just had the weirdest dream.
Somebody says mine was weirder. I am not kidding.
No, I'm not kidding either. I mean, it was just bizarre.
Mine had the actual Titanic in it.
Did it not sink? Because Balthazar
Had a hate on for Billy Zane. Why are you having my dreams, dude?
Wasn't a dream.
And Dean's like, wait, you're saying it actually happened? The whole whatever that was real? He says, yes. Sam says, so wait, what happened? Cass says, well, I insisted that Balthazar goes back in time and undo what he did. And, you know, that was the only way to make sure that you two were safe. And Sam's like, so you killed 50,000 people for us?
No, I didn't. They were never born. That's far different from being killed, wouldn't you say?
That's what I mean. Like, I think it's just a justification. I think they're trying to downplay what Cass did for his two favoritist boys.
Yeah. But the thing is, they didn't agree with this statement when Bobby said it.
I know.
And they remember that it was said to them.
Is this one of the... No, is this one of the clues? No, I don't know. Maybe this one of the clues that, like, Cass has been listening in on them, like, when they weren't expecting it? Because that whole thing comes out later. Because he says something that he's not supposed to say. That's kind of a spoiler for this season if you haven't watched it all the way through. But, like, he says something he shouldn't be able to say unless he's been listening to them. So is this kind of like a clue that he was listening to Bobby and Ellen? I don't know. Maybe that's what this is. Maybe this comes up in The Man Who Would Be King. Okay, we'll see.
Yeah, and it's coming up like in a few episodes, so we'll see then. But yeah. That's an interesting point.
I bet it doesn't now. I bet I'm pulling stuff out of thin air.
So Dean asks after Ellen and Joe, and Cass apologizes. Basically, he's like, so hold on, like, you went back and changed everything, and like that whole timeline or whatever has just got erased. He's like, yeah, more or less. Dean asks why they can remember it, and Cass says, because I wanted you to. And because Cass wanted them to know who Fate really was. She was cruel and capricious. I feel like that's important too. But again, like, we don't see her be cruel.
I guess the fact that she was killing people so callously to try and get the like timeline back on track, like.
But she believes that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's not like she was toying with them.
I mean, to be fair, she did have no reason apart from personal vengeance to try and kill Sam and Dean.
That one, yes, but they didn't know that because they were frozen.
But Cass told them before they were frozen. That's why they were trying to like tempt fate, that she was mad at them. But yeah, you're right. They only had Cass's word on it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
it would have made sense to come from her.
Yeah. I guess he goes on to explain like a bit more about why he thinks that, to be fair.
Yeah. Okay. I should carry on.
I'm so sorry.
No, that's good. Cass says,
You're the ones who taught me that you can make your own destiny. You don't have to be ruled by fate. You can choose freedom. And I still believe that that's something worth fighting for. I just wanted you to understand that.
Because, he's really trying to, like, kiss Dean. So, like, that whole fate freedom thing. Sorry.
You can. Is this what really happened in Despair? Like, fate was just having her moment back.
Partly, yeah. And also, like, what was I gonna say? Most of this is to. All the things that Cass is doing is for them. They don't see that, but everything is for them. He's trying to save them. Like, he could just let the apocalypse happen. He could let Raphael win and let the apocalypse happen and, like, fine. And, like, but they did show him freedom, and now he's trying to protect them from everything else and doing a bad job of it. And this is why he's saying, like, I want you to understand that, because he knows he's going to get found out eventually.
Yeah.
So he's trying to be like, please try and remember this. When it all comes out, like, please remember what I did for you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Which is why he's saying, like, I want you to know who fate is, because he knows that, like, it will come out. Like you said, it will come out. And yeah. Yeah. So then Cass is like, so Balthazar really just unraveled a sweater over a chick flick. And this is where Cass clearly and obviously lies. He's like, yes, absolutely. That's what he did.
It's so bad. He's so bad at lying to them. It's just like he looks down to the side, like every clear indication that someone is lying, he does. And they're like, okay.
Yeah. And I guess it's because of what happened in the French Mistake that they're like, oh yeah, this is what Balthazar would do, because like they don't know him. They've interacted with him like 3 times, and like they tried to kill him the first time. Second time he got Sam to try and kill Bobby. Third time he shoved him into an alternate universe where they had to be actors for a day.
But I think they kind of forget that was also Cass's plan, like the whole French Mistake.
Oh yeah. That's right. They were a distraction.
With no guaranteed way to bring them back.
That's true. That's very true. Huh. So Dean makes a joke, obviously. He says, wow, well, maybe it's time to take away his cable privileges. Besides, Titanic didn't suck that bad. And like Sam gives him a look. He's like, he makes a rude joke, which I'm not going to say. And then Cass disappears. I get, again, another tone flip, because he makes another joke at the expense of his first joke. He says, I'll tell you the one thing that Cass does not appreciate the finer things, referring to what he had just said.
Yeah.
And then they go inside and Bobby's finally asleep. Again, assuming that Bobby's in the same state of mind, which he probably is, where he is just researching to past exhaustion. And Sam's like, oh, I guess it's back to normal. And he's like, normal, awesome. And he's like, oh, poor bastard doesn't even know how good he had it. And it's almost like the same sentiment of like, well, he doesn't know. What he doesn't know doesn't hurt him. It's kind of the same thing. It's like, well, they were never born, so they can't die horribly. And, they're going to keep quiet about it. Sam asks if they should wake him up. And he's like, nah, like, this is probably the best he's felt all week. And then Dean like tucks him in, and it's so very sweet. And it's the end of the episode, and you're just like,
Aww.
And I'm just like, what? What did I just watch?
It was sweet. I'm glad they never told Bobby. I'm glad Bobby doesn't remember. He didn't need that. No.
Yeah, he didn't need that. And like, there was no indication in this timeline that like there was a flicker. I mean, I do feel like there may have been a flicker of interest, but like they had made the decision not to follow through.
I think so.
Which I think is fine.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel sad for Bobby in this episode. I think it's an interesting thing to explore. But ultimately, this episode is about Cass.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it.
The lengths he would go to for the boys.
Precisely that, like, and it kind of starts to give you like a thought about what he's doing for them. Like, it has been like background plot up to this point, and I feel like they're finally pushing it to the forefront of like, oh yeah, he's maybe doing some bad stuff, you know?
Maybe not bad stuff. Maybe just immoral stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the same thing.
Sketchy.
I don't know. Sketchy, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll give it to you. The scenes that are important are very important. The stuff in between is so. Would you call this a filler episode? I don't even know. Like, it doesn't feel like a plot one. But it is
definitely a plot. This is definitely a plot episode. I think it's too important in Cass's character, like, and to see what's going on.
But then Cass isn't a main character, so like sometimes his stuff gets kind of shoved to the side.
He should have been a main character by this point. Let's be real.
I know. Yeah.
But yeah.
I also want to say one other thing that's not really related. It's not related to this episode whatsoever. But like, I thought Crowley was in this season more, but we haven't seen him since like the beginning of this season.
He's dead. Don't you remember? His bones got burned.
Oh yeah. Oh.
He died. Yeah. Sorry, we don't see Mark Sheppard anymore now from this point on because Crowley's dead.
That's true. He's dead, Jim. He's dead.
He's gone and died.
I forgot. Can't believe I forgot that.
No,
that only happened, what, like 11 episodes?
I feel like...
Not less than that.
Yeah, it wasn't that longer. I feel like maybe he doesn't appear until the final episode and they're like, oh, you're not dead! I think that's what happens, but I'm not sure.
I think so too, because I feel like he's the demon that captures Lisa and Ben.
Oh, bad dude.
Bad dude.
It's just, yeah.
Bad.
A lot of the things he does in this season gives a whole new weight to like him and Dean having their whole like summer of love while Dean's a demon. Like, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have any problem with this episode. I think this episode is good. I think it is fine. I like an alternate universe. I feel like they could have changed slightly more things just for comedy's sake. I don't know what those things would have been. Like, maybe Dean does the research now, or Sam eats burgers and
little things like that.
Dean eats salads. I don't know. It's just stupid stuff. Or they listen to solely country music because rock and roll doesn't exist in this universe. I don't know. Yeah.
I guess. Oh, I was going to say, but they're like major traits, and they said small details change. I feel like those are not. Well, they are small details. I guess they are small details.
The Mustang was a poor choice, right? And I'll say this is why. Because the Impala is geared up as like their home, a really important car. And part of the reason of that is like inside you can sleep in it. And I don't feel like you can sleep in a Mustang.
Not that one.
No, not that one.
That's too small.
They should have picked a more a roomier car. And I know why they chose this car. It's because this was the car that Eric Kripke originally had in mind when he wrote Supernatural. And then some guy talked him out of it because he was like, no, the Impala's got a bigger boot to put bodies in.
Right. They should have gone with the minivan. Yeah. I know it's not cool, But like maybe just for this episode, like they can say something like, "Oh, the car's out, so we have to use this junker or whatever," because the whole reason why John got the Impala was because he was talked into it by Dean, because originally he was supposed to get a van for Mary.
Yeah, that actually would have made sense. Like maybe he bought the van, like, and they live in that van. I would like to have seen that. That would have been interesting. They could have like had something cool paid on the side, or I don't know.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. No, that actually would have been one. The thing is, they're both references, so they kind of both work, which is fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen Dean make a reference to having like driven a Mustang, like, oh, I feel like I cheated on my, on the, I don't know.
Yeah, I'll cheat on baby. Yeah.
Been quite fun. But yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. It was lacking something. I think that's what I'm having trouble with. It was trying to be a lot when I think it could have been less.
Yeah. A lot happened, and like you're right, like I don't know how they could have. They did maybe like too many Final Destination moments, but then 3 is probably fine. I don't know. You're right. There's something missing, but I'm not sure what it is.
I wonder if it's the addition of Ellen in this episode. Like, I don't feel like that was 100% necessary, because they don't lean into it. Because they're not going to tell Bobby that he was married to Ellen and that this whole situation happened. Like, we always knew that the Titanic had to sink again, so like it didn't, I don't feel like it played off of that emotion. Like, yeah,
it was the tone.
I think I wanted more faith.
Yeah, it was the tonal shifts, because they have this really serious conversation about like Ellen possibly dying and Joe possibly dying if the Titanic gets resink. Cut straight to Sam and Dean being a bit goofy. Like, where's the jeopardy? Where's the like heartfelt conversations? I mean, there are some, but they don't really feel like emotional enough with what they're facing. Like, because they really are against agents of fate. Like, there's almost like no way they're going to stop this. So why are they not talking more about it? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. And again, like, it feels, I think my biggest issue actually with this episode, it feels too easy. Like, fate is supposed to be this, the thing that they've been fighting against for 5 seasons, and it's all this, that, and the other. Turns out it's like a librarian who's a little bit whiny.
And this is a part of the problem with Supernatural as a whole, if I was going to critique the show, is that like, oh no, there's a big bad. Oh wait, it turns out he's like just a guy. Like, think Lucifer. Think, I guess like Dick, the Leviathan. Think Crowley. I guess he's kind of a big bad at some point. Cain is also just a guy, which is partly it. God, also just a dude. Yeah. Like, it's partly the point, I think. It's like, oh yeah, they're all fallible because they're kind of human in their own way. But like, it also takes a lot of the jeopardy out of the situation, because I feel like the only big bad who never felt like he was just some guy was Azazel. Like, he actually felt menacing.
It was,
whereas I don't find Lucifer menacing at all. I think he's like, I don't know. No.
Yeah, because I mean, we get to see what Azazel can do. Like, you see him take over a Reaper. That's nuts. Yeah. Like, what is that all about? They go up against Azazel for 2 seasons.
Yeah.
They have such a long time with him. Whereas like this is just like, I feel like if they replaced the Ellen and Joe with like, what if Fate was Bobby's wife, but they didn't know?
Exactly, right.
Like, she was messing with them. She was messing with their story right now. And like, I don't know how it would work, but like, in this context, maybe they had to change the entire story or whatever. But have Fate more involved with them and be like, wait, you were Fate all along? Like,
it's just like, where's the supernatural factor? She's just a lady. Like,
yeah. And she was about to get
Yeah,
stabbed.
like she was...
Because they just so happened to have a weapon.
They were going to kill Fate. Like, they legitimately were going to do it. Yeah. It's just a different... Yeah, that is my main critique about Supernatural. Like, what I don't enjoy about the show sometimes is that I do... And I'm sure this is a critique a lot of people have, is that as you go through the seasons, it loses its supernatural element. Like, it doesn't feel creepy. Like, the first few seasons feel creepy. Like, you don't know what's happening behind the scenes and stuff. Like, who the monster is going to be, like, what it's going to look like all that kind of stuff. But then vampires are just guys with fangs. Werewolves don't really turn in Supernatural, so they don't not really like wolf men / women. Like, they just have kind of claws, I guess. Like,
yeah,
it's just...
The dragons.
The dragons were the start of this. Yeah. Where's the coolness? And like, it comes with budget cuts. Yeah. I know that's why. Like, it's similar to aliens in Star Trek. We get to that point where you're like, oh, all aliens are just humans with different noses. Or some kind of like facial prosthetic, you know? Yeah. Because like, cool aliens are difficult to budget in. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
It's true. It's unfortunate, but it's true.
I don't know. I feel Buffy managed it though. Right. And their budget must have been also not that great.
Yeah.
And they still had creepy monsters right up to the end, I feel.
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're right. But I guess they were limited to like, well, no, I don't know. Yeah, that's really true actually. And but then they also played with the fact that like so Willow becomes a big bad, right? So one of their own becomes like the worst thing that they've ever faced, and that felt threatening because of what she did to one of the Three Stooges.
Yeah,
like that was terrifying. But we never see like when Dean becomes a demon, like the worst thing he did was go do karaoke and like walk around with an axe.
It's still
like,
my favorite thing.
That's not, it's not scary. Like you're not seeing Dean be this like awful character. But then, you know, Willow also had a whole arc of like trying to redeem herself, like through like not doing magic anymore or going like there was obviously a little bit of issue like when she gets sent off to like some witchy camp and comes back a goddess. Like also
amazing,
really.
I feel like this arc for Cass is his Dark Willow arc, right? Yeah. But
we don't see any of it.
And then he doesn't really get the redemption at the end because he's barely in season 7. Yeah. Okay, we'll see. Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm not mad this episode. It's a plot episode. But I feel like it also is kind of a highlight of a lot of things that are wrong with Supernatural, so that's interesting. Cool. Maybe you made me like it less than I did when I started, and maybe I've made you like it slightly more.
I'm sorry. we balance each other out.
Meet in the middle.
We balance each other out on this one. Yeah.
So what's the next episode?
The next one is Frontierland. We're finally here to the one I thought it was. But yeah, you're right. There is another time travel episode, but we actually see the time travel in this one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cowboys.
Again, I mean, Cowboys, I'm looking forward to it. I am hoping I might go back to The French Mistake and just like pull a screenshot of Sam as a cowboy to see if that same like shot comes up of him like riding
I don't think it does. I don't think they ride horses in this. I think the whole point of it is that like it's really disappointing. Like,
that they go back in time and they're not really cowboys.
You know, like Dean's real disappointed that cowboys aren't what he thought he was. I think that's maybe why it's called Frontierland. It's because like it's Frontierland at Disney, right? It's
right. Yeah. It's like a facade, basically.
And no, you could have a look. They definitely do that. Yeah. Cool. I'm looking forward to it. I want to see them dressed in little outfits. That's the best bit about any show.
Yeah. The changing of outfits, for sure. I I feel like this has something to do with the cult, and they think that the cult can stop Eve. Like, okay,
No, it
sure,
does. Yeah,
fine.
you're right.
Anyway.
I'm sure you are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it feels like it. It feels like it. So, yeah. Do you have anything else you wanted to say, talk about, make a point
No,
on?
ready to.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So at the end of this episode, we'd like to thank the Pixel Agora for his amazing logo art. If you would like to get it on a t-shirt, it's on our Redbubble store. And we're also all over social media. And talk to us about why either of us are right or wrong about this episode.
Yeah, that's a good one.
What would you like? How would you have liked Fate to have been portrayed as, or who? Personally, I think Maggie Smith would have done a great job, but they were never going to get Maggie Smith. Let's be real. So yeah, you can find us all over social media. We are on Tumblr, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and other places as Escaping Purgatory Podcast, or on Twitter, Escaping Podcast.
So this week we threw a necklace into the ocean, or did we? So next week, hopefully we can find our way out of supernatural purgatory. Bye.
Bye.